Wanting to do deep work is easy. Actually doing it is where the fantasy meets the calendar, and the calendar is usually armed. Most people do not fail at deep work because they are stupid or lazy. They fail because they treat depth like a mood. They wait to feel focused, inspired, calm, rested, and spiritually aligned with the task. Then real life arrives wearing a meeting invite, and the whole noble plan collapses before lunch. Welcome. In this third part of Deep Work, we cover Newport's first rule: work deeply. This is the practical heart of the book. Newport argues that deep work cannot be left to good intentions. It must be designed into life through routines, rituals, boundaries, and a serious respect for the limits of willpower. Newport begins this section with the eudaimonia machine, an architectural idea for a building designed to support human flourishing through deep work. The building moves from public space to increasingly quiet and focused rooms, ending in chambers for serious concentration. The point is not that every office needs such a building. Though honestly, compared with some open offices, even a broom closet with a chair starts to look like ancient wisdom. The point is that environment matters. If you want deep work, you need to shape the conditions for it. Many people do the opposite. They try to concentrate inside an environment built for interruption, then blame themselves for failing. That is like trying to sleep in a nightclub and diagnosing yourself with weak character. Newport emphasizes that willpower is limited. You cannot spend the whole day resisting temptation and expect to have heroic concentration available on command. If every deep work session requires a fresh internal debate, you will lose many of those debates. The solution is ritual. A ritual reduces the number of decisions required to begin. A good deep work ritual answers basic questions. Where will you work? When will you start? How long will the session last? What counts as success? What tools are allowed? What distractions are excluded? What will you do if you get stuck? The more these questions are settled in advance, the less energy you waste negotiating with yourself. This may sound rigid, but it is actually freeing. A ritual creates a container. Inside that container, the mind can stop managing logistics and begin working. Creative people often resist structure because they fear it will kill spontaneity. Newport's point is the opposite. Structure protects the conditions where real creativity can survive. He describes different philosophies for scheduling deep work. The monastic approach removes or radically reduces shallow obligations. This is the approach of people whose lives are built almost entirely around deep creation or thought. It is powerful, but not realistic for everyone. If you have a job, clients, children, bills, or a boss who believes quick sync is a love language, you may not be able to disappear into a cabin for 6 months. The bimodal approach divides time into clearly separated deep and shallow periods. A person might spend certain days, weeks, or seasons in deep work and other periods handling normal obligations. This works for people who can create larger blocks of separation. The rhythmic approach makes deep work a regular habit, often at the same time each day. This is the most practical for many people. Instead of waiting for a grand retreat, you build a rhythm. Every morning from 7 to 9, or every afternoon from 2 to 4, or every weekday before messages open. The power is consistency. The mind learns the pattern. The journalistic approach fits deep work into available pockets whenever they appear. Newport associates this with people who can switch into depth quickly, like journalists trained by deadlines. It is flexible, but it is also difficult. Beginners often overestimate their ability to drop into deep concentration between chaos and a sandwich. For most people, rhythm beats improvisation. The key lesson is that deep work must be scheduled. It does not happen because the day settles down. The day will not settle down. The day has ambitions. The day is full of people with needs, systems with alerts, and small tasks wearing fake mustaches so they can sneak into your priorities. If you do not schedule depth, shallow work will schedule you. Newport also recommends making deep work a grand gesture when appropriate. Sometimes a dramatic change in setting or commitment helps the mind take the work seriously. This might mean booking a hotel room to finish a proposal, go to a library every Saturday, disconnecting from the internet for a defined period, or making a public commitment. The drama is not for show. It raises the stakes and signals that this work matters. But Newport is not saying every session must be dramatic. Most deep work is built through ordinary repetition. The glamour is low. The reward is high. You sit down, remove distractions, define the task, work intensely, and repeat. It is not cinematic, unless your idea of cinema is someone staring at a paragraph for 40 minutes and then deleting one sentence, which, for writers, is basically an action sequence. One of the most useful strategies in this chapter is the idea of the 4DX framework, borrowed from business execution literature. Newport adapts it for deep work. The first discipline is to focus on the wildly important. Do not try to improve everything at once. Choose the important goal that depth will support. Maybe it is finishing a thesis, learning a programming language, writing a book, building a product, mastering financial analysis, or creating a body of research. The second discipline is to act on lead measures, not just lag measures. A lag measure is the final result, such as pages completed, revenue generated, or skill achieved. A lead measure is behavior you can control now, such as hours spent in deep work. Newport likes tracking deep work hours because it turns an abstract value into a visible practice. The third discipline is keeping a scoreboard. This sounds childish until you try it. The human brain enjoys visible progress. A simple tally of deep work hours can motivate consistency. It also removes self-deception. You may feel like you're focused, but the scoreboard asks a rude little question. How many actual hours? The fourth discipline is accountability. Newport describes reviewing progress regularly. The point is not to create corporate theater for your personal life. Please do not schedule a quarterly review with yourself and then bring donuts. The point is to keep depth connected to results. Are your deep work sessions moving the important goal forward? If not, adjust. Another major idea is downtime. Newport argues that when you work hard. When you are done, be done. This is a direct attack on the half-working life, where you're never fully focused and never fully resting. Many knowledge workers keep one mental foot in work all evening. They check email after dinner, think about tasks in bed, and call it dedication. Often it is just poor shutdown hygiene with a heroic costume. Newport gives several reasons to protect downtime. First, conscious rest helps the unconscious mind process difficult problems. Second, downtime restores the ability to focus. Third, the work that gets done during exhausted half-attention is often not very good anyway. Past a certain point, more hours do not mean more value. They mean more typos, worse judgment, and a personality that could frighten houseplants. The shutdown ritual is one of the book's most practical ideas. At the end of the workday, review open tasks, plan what needs attention later, and then declare the workday closed. The exact phrase matters less than the mental boundary. You are telling your brain, the loose ends have been captured. You do not need to keep rehearsing them all night. This is especially important because deep work requires recovery. A depleted mind cannot produce depth indefinitely. Newport is not preaching hustle culture. He is not saying work every waking hour. He is saying work with intensity, then stop with discipline. The stopping is part of the system. For viewers, Rule 1 can be turned into a practical experiment. Choose one important project. Define what progress would look like. Pick a daily or weekly deep work block. Make the rules clear. Phone away. messages closed, single task open, session length defined. Track the session. When the block ends, record what happened. Repeat long enough to see whether your output changes. At first, it may feel awkward. The mind will complain. It will ask for quick checks. It will invent urgent reasons to open the browser. It may suddenly become fascinated by whether the refrigerator needs cleaning. This is normal. A distracted mind does not become deep because you announced a new era on Monday morning. It needs training. Newport's deeper message is that focus is not a personality trait reserved for geniuses in dramatic black and white photographs. It is a practice. You build it through design. The serious worker does not merely hope to concentrate. They remove friction, define rituals, schedule depth, measure effort, and protect rest. This changes the emotional tone of productivity. Instead of asking, "Why am I so bad at focusing?" ask, "What in my system makes focus unlikely?" Instead of relying on guilt, redesign the day. Instead of treating every interruption as unavoidable, decide which interruptions deserve access to your best mind. Deep work is demanding, but it is also merciful in one way. It gives you a clearer standard. Did you spend time on the important thing with full attention? That question cuts through much of the noise. It does not care how many tabs were open, how busy you looked, or how many messages you cleared. It asks whether your best attention touched your most important work. To make this practical, Newport's rule can be turned into a simple weekly operating system. At the beginning of the week, choose the project where depth would make the biggest difference. Then block specific sessions before the week becomes crowded. Treat those blocks like appointments with the work itself. If you move them casually, you're teaching yourself that depth is optional. Before each session, define the target in concrete terms. Work on project is too vague. Draft the introduction, solve the data cleaning problem, outline chapter 3, or finish the valuation model assumptions is better. A clear target reduces the temptation to drift. The mind needs a task it can attack. Then remove the obvious failure points. Put the phone in another room. Close the inbox. Sinon chat. Open only the files needed for the session. If the internet is required, write down exactly what it is required for. Otherwise, research becomes wandering, and wandering becomes a half-hour reading about something that is technically related in the way a potato is related to international trade. During the session, expect resistance. The first 15 minutes may feel messy. Newport's point is that this is normal. The mind needs time to settle. Many people quit before depth begins because the early discomfort convinces them the session is not working. But the early discomfort may simply be the entrance fee. After the session, record what happened. How long did you work? What did you produce? What distracted you? What should change next time? This review turns focus into a feedback loop. You're not only doing work, you're learning how you work. The shutdown ritual deserves the same seriousness. End the workday by checking tasks, capturing loose ends, and deciding what happens next. This prevents the mind from carrying vague anxiety into the evening. Uncaptured obligations are noisy. Written obligations become quieter. The brain relaxes when it trusts that the system will remember. This is where Newport's approach differs from simple hustle advice. He wants intensity, but not endlessness. Deep work is not compatible with permanent exhaustion. A tired mind can still perform shallow tasks, which is why shallow work expands late into the evening. But the kind of thought Newport values requires restoration. Rest is not a reward for finishing everything. Everything will not finish. Rest is maintenance for the instrument. For a beginner, the first goal is not heroic output. It is consistency. 3 90-minute deep work blocks per week may be more valuable than one dramatic 6-hour attempt followed by collapse, resentment, and a return to notification soup. Depth compounds through repetition. It also helps to choose the right depth level for the task. Not every session needs the same intensity. Some deep work is exploratory, reading difficult material, mapping ideas, understanding a problem. Some is productive, drafting, coding, solving, calculating, designing. Some is polishing, revising, simplifying, testing, refining. Naming the mode helps you avoid judging the session unfairly. Exploration can feel slow, but it may be necessary before production becomes possible. Newport's ritual idea can also include a start signal. Make the beginning boringly consistent. Same chair, same library table, same playlist if music helps, same notebook, same first sentence in a work log. The signal tells the brain that the negotiation is over. We are not browsing, dabbling, warming up forever, or arranging pens like a tiny office museum. We are beginning. The environment should make the desired behavior easier and the undesired behavior harder. This sounds obvious, but many people design the reverse. They keep the phone visible, the inbox open, the browser full of temptations, and a deep task hidden behind 6 windows. Then they wonder why the mind chooses escape. A good deep work setup is not glamorous. It is simply less stupid on purpose. The accountability piece can be private or social. Some people need a public commitment, a writing group, a manager, or a partner. Others only need a visible record. The principle is that deep work should leave traces. A calendar, tally, journal, or scoreboard makes the invisible visible. Once you see the pattern, you can improve it. Finally, do not confuse planning with depth. Planning supports deep work, but it is not the same thing. A person can spend an entire week designing a perfect focus system and never focus. The system only matters if it leads to actual sessions where attention meets difficulty. The ritual is a doorway, not the house. The best version of Rule 1 is therefore humble and repeatable. Pick the work that matters, define the block, remove the obvious distractions, work with intensity, track the result, and stop properly. There's nothing magical in that sequence, which is why people underestimate it. But repeated for months, it can separate a person who merely wants depth from a person who has trained a life around it. Newport's deeper challenge is to stop outsourcing focus to mood. A professional does not wait to feel like concentrating any more than an athlete waits to feel like training. The feeling may come after the start. The ritual begins before the feeling. Thank you for watching this third part. In the next episode, we will cover 2 rules that deal with the distracted mind directly. Embrace boredom and quit social media. In other words, Newport is about to look at the modern brain and say, gently but firmly, stop feeding it candy every time it whimpers. Until then, choose one deep work ritual you could actually repeat. Not a fantasy ritual, not a perfect monk schedule, a real one. Protect it, track it, and see what your mind can do when it is finally allowed to stay.